Good afternoon, everybody. It's time for the final match of round 2 in the FOSROC Super 6. We're bringing you the action from Bridgehaugh today in the shadow of the Wallace Monument, resplendent in sunshine, as Stirling Wolves take on Heriot's Rugby. Both teams were well beaten in round 1. The injury hit Wolves, falling at home to Boroughmuir Bears. Heriot's outgunned at Millbrae by defending champions, the Ayrshire Bulls. These two eager to set the record straight as Stirling Castle stands proud on the hill above Bridgehaugh. Always one of the most picturesque venues on the Scottish rugby circuit, and a fabulous afternoon for some Super 6 action. Both teams looking to bounce back after those opening round defeats. Well, Bruce Millar is with us for this one, and Bruce, you called Stirling's loss at Boroughmuir last weekend. What were your impressions of this injury hit Wolves side?
How do I put it politely or kindly, because you don't want to be unkind? I had quite high expectations of Stirling Wolves, simply because they had finished the sprint series so well, just lost out very narrowly in that final game against Watsonians. And so I came to commentary really expecting big things from them, and they just didn't deliver at all. You said there in your intro that they're hit by injury, so we'll give them the benefit of the doubt on that. And you know, just first weekend nerves, if you like, and not quite into their stride yet. You'll get to the team shortly. They've made some changes which I think will strengthen them today, and they will need to be much stronger.
Yeah, Heriot showed glimpses of a new style and a bit of improvement after a tough sprint series down at Millbrae last Friday. Do you expect them to change things up much under the new coaches, Finn Gillis and Stuart Edwards?
Well, it was interesting, and again I mentioned it in commentary last week, the Scottish Rugby podcast, and they had 2 or 3 of the coaches on, and they spoke about how they like to, you know, impose their own. I think the blueprint was the term they used, and a lot of that is influenced by how they played their rugby. But you've got maybe two slightly different approaches in Finn Gillis and Stuart Edwards. But it's very clear towards. Well, I watched their last game in the sprint series was against Boroughmuir, and you instantly thought that Stuart Edwards he's put his stamp on that team already. So if they're going to change their style at all, I think it will be maybe back towards more what we would describe as a Heriot rugby style, and they scored one particular try that springs to mind, the one that they scored under the post last week down at Millbrae, and as I say, that had Stuart Edwards written all over it for me.
Does it help having a club legend, an icon like Stuart Edwards in the mix when you're perhaps trying to create an identity around the way that you play? I
think it probably does, and both of them are young enough that the players know them and can relate to them. It's not like bringing in somebody of my age that they wouldn't know who it was. They will know these guys, and I think they will go out and want to play for them.
Well, let's take a look at those all-important lineups then, and for Stirling Wolves, as we mentioned already, grappling with a massive injury list. 3 more names, those of Ryan Southern, Finlay Callaghan and George Arnott, all added to that after coming off early last weekend. There is then a rotated pack up front, with Cameron McMillan and Scotland under-20 hooker Gregor Hiddleston coming into the front row. Hiddleston very impressive against the Bears. Callum Cruikshank replaces the stricken Arnott in the back row. Benedict Grant at number 8 posted some of the best individual stats in the competition last weekend. In the back line, Ewan Cunningham switches places with Callum Beckett, who's on the bench today. Cunningham, one of the Scotland's premier fly-halves at under-20 level. Co-captain Marcus Holden shifts from fullback to inside centre as he pairs up with 18-year-old Alex Tom in a new midfield duo. Craig Jardine moves out to the left wing, and Logan Trotter is injury-free and ready to rumble at fullback in what is a massive boost to Ben Cairns. 2 emergency loanees among the Wolves' replacement today. Stirling County Club captain Sean MacDonald steps up as he returns from nearly a year out injured, and former Southern Knights skipper Craig Jackson makes the long journey north from Gala to cover the backline wearing number 22. Well, Heriots may not be battling the same personnel issues. It is tweaks for the visitors rather than major surgery to their opening round lineup. They too, though, field the new look centre pairing as Scotland 7's international Lyall Godsmark starts alongside Kyle Brown. The latter made his Super 6 debut at Millbrae. Sam Picure, another 7 specialist, got a double against the Bulls, 2 fabulously taken scores, and Rory Steele moves from outside centre to the right wing. Up front, there's a start for Dan Gamble, the contracted Edinburgh tight head prop, and for flanker Lewis Govenlock, who's won honours at Scotland's students level. Captain Rory Leishman packs down in the engine room, having played on the blindside flank in Alloway. Struan Sesford was a try scorer for the Southern Knights in round 1 after providing cover to the Borders franchise. He, though, is back with his parent team today and comes straight onto the bench. Murdo McAndrew will bring spark and experience at scrum half. We're almost ready to go at Bridgehaugh. A glorious afternoon in Stirling. And Ben Cairns boosted perhaps by the return of one or two players, particularly the man wearing 15 today, Logan Trotter. He's a class act.
He's a huge boost to them. They were at their best last season in the sprint series when they had Logan Trotter, and to be fair, they had two Glasgow Warriors wingers released to them every week, which makes a massive difference. But Logan Trotter, he really stood out every week. That's allowed them to move Marcus Holden, who started at fullback last week, into inside centre, and he was one of their better players, probably the pick of the bunch last week, but especially when he slotted in at first and second receiver. So they've started him there. He'll give them go forward there, and they need to get the ball into the hands of Holden and also Benedict Grant, the big number 8, I think, to get them on the front foot early on. But the back row, I felt they were outplayed by a very good Boroughmuir Bears back row last week, and they'll have their work cut out again today up against Jack Mann, Ian Wilson and Lewis Govenlock. So that's one area that I'm particularly looking forward to. You mentioned the changes. Ewan Cunningham coming in at 10 for Stirling Wolves. He looked really good when he came off the bench alongside Gregor Christie, who I thought had a brilliant debut for the Wolves, and Gregor Hiddleston deserving his start. I think he was picked out. Each of the coaches picked a player to look out for this season, and Hiddleston was the guy that Ben Cairns picked out. He was superb off the bench, so look out for him this afternoon.
Yeah, a lot of exciting young talent on show, as there will be across the FOSROC Super 6 this season. Plenty on both teams to keep an eye on, with the URC just a few weeks around the corner, the pro ranks of Edinburgh and Glasgow Warriors. But here we go then. That's a lot of big men in rather a small tunnel, as we await the arrivals of our two sets of combatants today. Stirling Wolves starting with home fixtures, Boroughmuir Bears and Heriots today. Heriots on the road in the opening 2 rounds, defeated in Alloway last weekend. A chance to respond at Bridgehaugh. And here come the visitors. They made a decent fist of it against the reigning champions last weekend, Rory Leishman's team. And they left Millbrae empty-handed, and they will be determined to pick up their first points of the new campaign here at Stirling. Eager to find their form, find their feet under this new look coaching duo of Gillis and Edwards.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please welcome your Stirling Wolves.
It's been a testing old start to the season for Ben Cairns and Stirling. So many big players out injured. Another 3 stricken, invalided out against the Boroughmuir Bears. But they have got a couple of big names back themselves, and they can certainly pack a punch. We've seen that down through the season and the sprint series. It is so often an entertaining affair when the Wolves are at home with the sun on their backs. Johnny Perriam is today's referee. He used to work in the marketing departments at Edinburgh Rugby. He has the whistle this afternoon. Bruce Houston, by the way, wearing the number 24 jersey, as he did down at Millbrae. He is Heriot's fly half, and it will be he who kicks us off.
You wondered who ordered the jerseys, because you would imagine that Bruce Houston was an absolute shoe, and you would go and ask him what size he is, and you'd buy the number 10 jersey in that size. But yeah, he's obviously a little bit bigger than whoever put the order in expected.
Maybe someone got a bit overzealous with the tumble dryer.
He's certainly one of the best fly halves in the competition.
Here we go then. Gorgeous afternoon at Bridgehaugh. Stunning scenery, stunning weather. Will we have a stunning game of rugby to match? Round 2 of the 2022 FOSROC Super 6 draws to a close. And the first of what will be a pile of carries for Jack Mann, the 22-year-old. Such an exciting number 8. Battled his fair share of injury problems last season, and he was excellent down at Millbrae. There's a carry as well for Lewis Govenlock, qualified chartered accountant. Houston, King, and wide they go to Sam Pecure. Finished off 2 excellent tries down in Ayrshire. Gelderbloom into Sadak. Confident start this for Heriot's. Govenlock's a very nimble back row, light on his feet. Houston, King, misses out Steele. It's just gone behind Rory Leishman, who flirts with the touchline on this near side. Gelderbloom again. Ian Wilson, all the Heriot's back row touching the ball. But Johnny Perriam spies an infringement. Heriot's coming in at the side. It was Dan Gamble, and the first attack comes to naught.
That was an interesting start, because I've mentioned often in commentary that Stirling Wolves, for me, and we are too happy to play with the ball in their own 22 on kick-off receipt. And on that occasion, obviously a change in policy, they opted to kick it. I thought they would opt to kick it out, but instead they just kicked it back to Heriot's Rugby and then had to defend for several phases. Some nice play by Heriot's Rugby. They never take the obvious option. They're quite happy to throw. Maybe see an example here in the replay. The ball will get thrown across the face of 2 players to the outside player in that 3-man pod. Most teams will just hit the middle player, and it just keeps the defence guessing. But good work at the breakdown there. In fact, side entry, so the penalty given away by Heriot's.
First throw of the afternoon for Gregor Hiddleston, and it's a good one. What have the Wolves not in their attacking arsenal? It's a loose one. Fumbled forward by young Alex Tom. And Johnny Perry and the referee will just bring them back here.
Bit of ambition there from the Stirling Wolves, trying to go wide, and I think they probably just had an issue. They tried to play out their sort of second line of attack. The couple of players just a little bit too flat, so the ball went behind, but good to see them early on trying to go wide.
This will be an interesting aspect of play today, the scrummage. Heriot's were really under the pump for much of that opener down on Friday night in Ayrshire. Dan Campbell coming in at tight head. Try and turn the tides. It's a good first scrum from Heriot's. Gelderbloom away. Kick charge down. Gelderbloom has to recover, and that is a dusty ball. Steele hammers it forward. First chance for Logan Trotter to get hands on ball today. Well taken by Houston. It's trickling all the way over the Stirling Wolves goal line. Remember, if they touch it down, it's a goal line dropout these days, not a 22, so no surprise that they try and clear their lines more effectively. And that is an excellent pressure relieving touch finder.
That really is a good kick up over halfway. As you said, interesting first scrum. You look at both front fives and they look mobile. Interesting to see how they fare against each other in the scrum.
A tremendous steal by Hamish Ferguson at the line out. Charging forward from the Wolves. Carry from Craig Jard in the left wing. This is Lewis Skinner, one of the heaviest men in the Super 6. Already a ferocious contest at the breakdown. Heriot's counter-rucking well. Wolves get it away. Cunningham to Gordon. Cunningham again. Ashes that one high. Asks King to come forwards. Nobody claims it. And the call is Heriot's line out. Pressure already on Cammy Fenton. Lost the last one. This is better. Sadak. Gelderbloom looping pass for Houston. Jack Mann again is asked to charge into contact. Houston. Here's Logan Trotter. He's got all the tools as Logan Trotter, including a mighty right boot. Houston now. Neither team is keen to play too much rugby in their own half just at the moment. Back there was Gregor Christie, the scrum half. Now perhaps a chance for teenager Dan King to counter-attack. Pecure on his shoulder, Govenlock on his shoulder, and Lewis Govenlock is galloping in for a score. That is wonderfully worked from kick receipts. And Heriot's carve open the Wolves.
And with 6 minutes on the clock, the first try of
That's a cracking try. There'll be people watching that and probably thinking, well, this is a bit negative. The ball's getting kicked back and forward. Heriot's always very happy to kick it, and that's exactly why. They're just waiting for an opportunity on the counter-attack. And rather than kicking it back, they saw where the space was. Out to Pecure, who had a fantastic game last weekend. And just inside support from Lewis Govenlock. And over he goes for the first try.
Scored some big tries for the Heriot's Blues over the years. As a try scorer as they won National 1. Now progressing in the world of accountancy. Totting up the game's first try 6 minutes in. Houston then. No problem with that effort. 5 points become 7. And Heriots take first blood.
Stirling Wolves 0, Heriot's 7.
Well, I think we might see a bit more kicking from Heriots now, given that how that has worked for them. The last game I watched them was against the Boroughmuir Bears, maybe 8-9 weeks ago, and they kicked an awful lot that day, but it worked well for them, and already they've profited from a kicking duel there.
Yeah, Bruce Houston's a very smart playmaker. A lot of professional experience as well. Was in the Ulster setup a long time. Did make a solitary URC appearance for them as well. Houston. Quite happy to send up these long chasing diagonals. And Cruikshank is back there. And it's a reasonable response from the Wolves. But in fact, it may have been carried in, it may have cannoned off a Wolves player en route to Craig Jardine. I think it bounced off Callum Cruikshank, in fact, in the backfield.
I think it did. I sort of assumed, we might get a replay, I assumed that they were both in the 22, but it obviously hit Cruikshank when he was out the 22, went back in, so essentially it has been carried back. And what a fantastic attacking opportunity here for Heriot.
Good spot from the officials, that as well.
It is. It's not easy to keep an eye on all those things.
So Cammy Fenton to throw. Finds the warm embrace of his captain Leishman. Wilson peels off. Gelderbloom. Fenton goes route one. And down by Connor Garden. Gelderbloom again. Govenlock on the hunt for a second try. Heriot's going through the gears, bringing the power. Can they find another score? Chris Keane, powerful loose head prop. Takes a few to haul him down. Jack Mann, a metre or so out now. Heriot smell blood. Can they convert from this glorious position? Leishman shovels it on. Fenton, who was grappling towards the line. The ball squirmed loose. The Wolves hack it clear. Only as far as Dan King. It's a sprightly young fullback. That's not such a sprightly pass though. And Rory Steele makes sure of the tackle. Somehow that ball didn't go over to touch. The Stirling Wolves survive.
That's an unbelievable last-ditch tackle right under the posts there. It looked for all money that Heriots were going over. I would like to see that again on the replay. Who held the man up, and then the turnover, and away comes Stirling Wolves.
It's a terrific take there. I think Marcus Holden galloping forward. And now Christie will chase Heriot's back. Acres of open prairie there. Foot race between Trotter and Pecure, and the ball beats both of them. Well, Stirling want to go quickly here, but I think the line-out will be given to Heriots.
Well, that was a great bit of play by Heriots as well. At the other end, they had the line out, which I imagine the Wolves were expecting them to drive, and instead they played off the back of it. Came around here, and we're getting another look at the end of that, just the pick and go. The ball was passed, was it to Fenton, and they had Keane behind him to drive him over. I still can't quite see, I think it's one of the second rows. That is an outstanding bit of work there, just to pull him over on his back. The ball went loose and then hacked upfield. So good work there by Stirling Wolves, and suddenly they find themselves on the attack at the other end of the field. Great foot race as well between the Logan Trotter and Sam Pecure. Real pace there from Pecure in the centre of your shot just now. Scotland's 7th player, and he had a bit of making up to do in Logan Trotter. In the end, the ball beat them both into touch, but I think Pecure was just about going to get there if he'd had to.
Yeah, no stranger to recovery runs in the 7th Circuit, Sam Pecure. Well, I'll tell you what, it is a Stirling Wolves line out, and I think Johnny Perham is just apologising for not allowing them to go quickly. Pecure must have just told that out.
Well, would it not be the 50-22 maybe?
Perhaps,
I think it probably was a 50-22, which again was superb kick.
I think you're spot on actually, Bruce, yeah. The upshot is, the tables have turned. From their own line, Stirling Wolves 5 metres from a potentially game-levelling try, and that maul looks very good on their over. Brilliant work from the Stirling Wolves pack. They have their try, and it's Gregor Hiddleston, the Scotland under-20 hooker, who plunders his first of the Super 6 season.
Well, Stirling Wolves in a sort of diagonally opposite position to where Heriots just had their line out a few moments ago, and they taking the more direct approach here, just setting up the driving line out. Hiddleston at the back, as the modern day hooker does now, the man to profit from that, just plunges over the line, and so they're taking the more direct approach. Good to see Heriots at the other end of the field trying to go through phases and be a bit more inventive, but it didn't get them across the line. That has got the Wolves over the line and right back into this game.
He made such a good impact last weekend off the bench against Boroughmuir, Gregor Hiddleston. Big future ahead of him. Just 20 years old. As Holden lines up and just misses the conversion. But the gap cut to 2 within 6 minutes of Heriot's try.
Well, he's so mobile, Hiddleston. He went across to Italy with the Scotland under-20s as a hooker, but he played the last game. Was it against Ireland? Maybe it was against Italy, but Ireland, I think, and he played open side flanker. So a very mobile player, and great future ahead of him.
Yeah, started at 7 in that game. He's got a lot of strings to his bow. So 30 minutes played already, 2 tries on board. That's a good kick chase from Heriot's to force a tricky clearance, and an opportunity for them to respond straight away. Throw from Fenton, Govenlock collects. Again, it's this manoeuvre. It's just forward off Rory Steele's hands. See what they were trying to do, bringing in the blindside winger. Trotter lashes the clearance out on the full.
It's essentially the same play as they did 5 minutes or so ago, from just slightly further down that touchline. Just the hooker getting the ball from the back of the dummy maul, and I think on the previous occasion he used the man outside him. On this occasion, and that, I mean, that's how you manipulate defence. The defences, they see the play coming around, they think it's the same, they're looking for the same pass, and instead you go elsewhere. But it looked like they didn't quite get their timing right. Rory Steele was ahead of him. I think it was perhaps forward, but it wasn't gathered cleanly anyway. But once again, it's good to see them being inventive from these positions.
Big big shunt coming on from Heriot, but it's illegal. Chris Keane adjudged to have dropped his bind.
You did get a sense in the previous scrum that Heriot's perhaps had an edge, and on this occasion they got more of a drive on. We can't see it on the other side. We've got Dan Gamble on this side, still a youngster, came up through the system at Kelso. Chris Keane, one of the best loose heads in the competition for me, and very powerful, but judged to be illegal there, and gives Stirling Wolves, I still want to call them Stirling County, Stirling Wolves, an easy out up into the Heriot's half again.
We've yet to concede a penalty in 16 minutes of rugby, have the Wolves. Heriots were approaching double figures by half-time at Alloway. And maybe lucky not to be done there, because Ronan Sadak had a hand on the jumper. Here come the Wolves nonetheless. Holden, goodness me, sits down Bruce Houston. Christie, clever snipe that. It's Houston who recovers well, and that is terrific work over the ball. I think it was Rory Steele, it was. Really super breakdown jackling.
That's a great carry there by Holden. You know what you're going to get if you're standing opposite him in defence. He's not trying to hide anything, he's coming straight at you over the top of Houston, and they didn't quite get their defence set there. Picked up by Christie and darted away there, and good tackle, and a man you probably wouldn't expect to be racing in there as the jackler. Rory Steele did a great job for his side. Chris Keane in the centre of the shot there, penalised at the last scrum. You can see how powerfully built he is. Very strong scrummager.
Yeah, former Gala captain Chris Keane. Big old unit.
And the man from Kelso, both props have just realised the Heriot side through the system at Kelso.
It's awkward from Gelderbloom. He does shovel it on to Jack Mann, who's not a bad option to have when you're in a tight spot. Gelderbloom, Ian Wilson, Gelderbloom again, it's well read. Godsmark, caught ball and all. It was Ewan Cunningham who flew up. Saw exactly what Heriots were up to. Govenlock, nimble. Gelderbloom, Houston switches direction. That could roll all the way over the dead ball line. It will. Stirling Wolves will have a scrum way back inside Heriot's territory. Too much on that from Houston.
Good defence by the Wolves as well, because Heriots were well set up in the middle of the field. It can be difficult to defend, difficult to get any line speed, and they managed to create again. Going back to Stuart Edwards, they had a very clear two-sided attack there, and they came across to the right-hand side, but the Wolves defence came up very, very quickly, and as they passed the ball out the back, they came flooding through in defence, made the tackle behind the gain line, and essentially forced Heriots to kick as they were losing ground, and it wasn't the best kick in the end. Rolled dead, and a win to Stirling Wolves on that occasion. Players taking on water here, and I think they'll need this a few times today. It is very, very warm.
Yeah, he is becoming standard across the game now, the mid-half water breaks, and with the temperature hitting the high 20s, it will be most welcome for the boys down on the paddock today. What have you made of this opening quarter or so, Bruce? A lot of ambition from Stirling Wolves. Heriots through Bruce Houston, just trying to keep them pinned in their own half.
Yes, it's been interesting, both sides, and I think we probably need to, or I need to stop saying this, because I think all the teams across the competition want to play rugby. I was going to say it's great to see them here coming and trying to play rugby. When they've been kicking, it's been kicking for a purpose. It worked for Heriots because we saw them on kick receipt after 5 or 6 kicks. Eventually saw the space in front, and that's where the Govenlock try came from. Got their last kick wrong, and that's how we find ourselves here. But Stirling Wolves have had less possession, I imagine, but they're trying to play with it. They can take that direct approach through Marcus Holden when they want. They've tried to go wide on a couple of occasions, but actually it's been their pack from that driving line out, Hiddleston going over. So two slightly different approaches or styles, but both very good to watch. And yes, I was maybe a bit harsh on Stirling Wolves in the intro, but this is already a step up from where they were last week.
Yeah, they trailed 13-10 to Burramuir at the break, but they were sloppy and they were blown away second half. Here comes Benedict Grant. Oh, Christie is levelled. Lined up in the tackle by Kyle Brown. A thunderous hit.
Benedict Grant will be due Christie a pint after this game for that pass. The scrum going backwards at a rate of knots. He picked up and he was just caught in two minds. He just needed to go forward, through the basketball, pass across. Poor Gregor Christie having to go up, and you know what's coming when you take a ball above your head like that, and he got absolutely hammered. Oh. And actually, if Grant had cut inside as he should have, you see there was a space for him. And when does Benedict Grant not just go forward? That's probably the only occasion I've ever seen him not do that. They had something pre-called, they were trying to go wide, and I think that was probably in the back of his mind. I'm expected to get the ball out there, I'll just shovel it out, where really if he'd stuck his head down, he was probably aware at the very least over the gain line.
He made 22 carries last weekend, Benedict Grant. 22 carries, 23 tackles, didn't miss one, beat 5 defenders. A really inspirational individual performance. But that was a hospital pass.
Yes, it was. It was. He's got so much potential, because we know you've just mentioned those statistics there. There's not many other players in the competition going to be doing that and making the ground that they do, and it's just little things like that you know, a small decision. Sometimes his hands, you don't let him down, but it's just not perfect. But if he'd be working on these sorts of things, and he really could be a very, very good. Well, he is a very good number 8, and he could be really top class, because he's got all the physical attributes. Some good number 8s in the competition. I mean, Jack Mann standing at there, you can see the size of him just going off the left of your screen now. Still only will he be about 22, because I think he missed a lot of last season just due to injury. But another player who runs very, very hard.
Lovely platform for Geldra Bloom. Houston. And Rory Steele in the line. It's Gosmark, in fact, who has slipped the tackle. And Heriots go flooding through in support of their centre. An excellent cover tackle by Holden. King, though. Another loose pass from Dan King. That's a couple now. Just isn't finding his range with those. Stirling Wolves pick it off. And Benedict Grant's doing what we're accustomed to seeing him perform.
Good tackle by Dan Gamble.
Christie clears. Steele. Fleet-footed winger. Tries a little sidestep. Keane takes it on a bit further. Counter-rucking from Stirling Wolves, but not quite good enough. Houston, there is an overlap here. King feeds Godsmark, and he's just scragged down on the far side. Geldra Bloom. Cammy Fenton with the goose step. That's what we want to see, front row forwards, bringing out all the tricks. Houston, oh, he's picked that beautifully. Ian Wilson through, and Geldra Bloom canters home untouched. Lovely deception and delay on the ball from Houston, and Wilson sends Geldra Bloom under the sticks.
Fantastic play again by Heriot, just going through phases and challenging that defence, stretching them, and then when the opportunity presents itself here, I was going to say I thought he had juggled that, and when I see it on the replay, he did. It wasn't a knock on, but he juggled it, and whether that just pulled the defence onto him just an extra step or took their eyes off it, and there's always just a bit more space out in the midfield there. Two big forwards running at holes, and he picked the right option there, clean through. But again, it comes back to the phases that they've played before that create those spaces in the midfield, and I think that originally came from a midfield scrum, and they broke away down the right hand side. Didn't have to do anything fancy, they're just doing things at pace. They're running some nice lines. They went across to the other side of the field, and they just got two big forwards running, not quite screen lines, but they're just running a kind of holding line, and they play behind them, get the ball wide, and the defence are left guessing where is the next punch coming from, and eventually it came right up the middle. Houston adds the extras.
Yeah, 2 more points for Bruce Houston. Was never going to miss that one, was he? 14 points to 5, Heriot's leads. 17 minutes or so left in this first 40. It's been a keenly contested affair so far. But it is just that class, that experience perhaps of Heriot's telling. Likes of Pecure and Godsmark, who've such pedigree on the Sevens World Series, beginning to shine through. There is Sam Pecure. 66 appearances for Scotland Sevens. Fenton, who has a bit of professional pedigree himself, played for both Edinburgh and Glasgow Warriors. The Levine goes long. Trotter. It's a really important tackle that from Govenlock, just to stop the momentum. He's almost stripped in the tackle, Logan Trotter. The Wolves have it back. Hiddleston, Cunningham, Holden the co-captain. First chance for Alex Tom to show what he can do ball in hand. Youngest man on the pitch today at 18. And that's loose. Skinner can't take it. And it all gets a bit scrappy.
The Wolves going wide though, and making a better job of it on this occasion. And if they'd just been a little bit quicker going back the way, the Heriot's defence they didn't look perfectly set. There's a bit of a dog leg there, but if they'd gone a second or two earlier, there might have been more of an opportunity in the end, unable to take the pass. Better there from Stirling. Again, they will find themselves under pressure. Try not to concede a penalty from this scrum here.
It is definitely Heriot's who've had the upper hand at scrum time so far. Albeit they did concede the only scrum penalty.
Govenlock on this side, you see with the blue scrum cap on. You mentioned just a couple of minutes ago his tackle on Logan Trotter. I meant to go back to that because that was really important, because if Trotter evades that first tackle, we can't see, you can't see it at home on your screen, but there was an opportunity for him if he had evaded the clutches of Govenlock. The blind side clinging onto his bootlaces, doing his work here in the scrum, just behind Dan Gamble there in the 3 jersey.
Point. Set.
Gilderbloom then. Houston charging through went Godsmark. It's a wild pass towards Pecure. Looked to have drifted forwards. Pecure spilled it in any case. Stirling Wolves can't make much of the knock-on advantage. So from one scrum to another.
Nice play by Heriot's from the scrum. It's just a couple of the passes were just too far in front of the man, making them, that last one just making them reach a little bit too far. Coach might say, well, I want it out in front and let them run onto it, but there's a limit to that. And I think they just exceeded it there.
Yeah, it was Kyle Brown really ripped the pass off that right hand, but it did look a few degrees beyond flat. And it's good to see the ambition from both teams. They're not messing around, they're trying to get into their attacking shapes.
Set.
Penalty Stirling. Dan Gamble collapsing.
And that'll give the Stirling Wolves pack a bit of confidence, because they've been under the pump in the last 2 or 3 scrums. See this one again there. Yeah, you can see he was just overextended. His legs were straight. He had nowhere to go. Feet just went away from him. It's a fair call there by the referee.
Yeah, just 21 years old, Dan Gamble. 3 senior appearances for Edinburgh Rugby the past couple of seasons. And you'd imagine he will be in and amongst it for Mike Blair this season as they look to compete on 2 fronts in Europe and in the URC. Need to use that squad depth. Hiddleston then with the throw. Finds Pow uncontested. Flat ball for Holden. Grant brilliant collision that with Jack Mann. Two mighty specimens at number 8 going head to head. It's a bit loose from Cruikshank. Connor Gordon, his fellow flanker, rescues it. Christie away. Holden, Cunningham, searching for space in the corner. Well, he's overcooked it. Out on the full. That attacking platform just squandered a little by Stirling Wolves.
Yes, because it was a fantastic carry by Benedict Grant just off the line out. Again, no surprises there. Clear what they were going to do. Met with just about equal force by his opposite number, Jack Mann, but it got the Wolves on the front foot, and I thought Cunningham would judge that nicely, but just got too much on it. So of course it comes back to in line with where he kicked it. Hands possession to Heriot. Gregor Christie, just see him, and his passing, his service is excellent. We've not seen an awful lot of him. Hiddleston unable to take that at the back, knocked on, but yeah, Christie's he's been a good addition to that Wolves squad. You imagine if you've got a brother who's an All Black, you must have you must be fairly useful yourself. Maybe that doesn't follow, but they'll have done a bit together, I would imagine, over the years. And yeah, I like what I see from Christie in the first game and a half that I've watched.
He has an exciting talent, young Christie. A lot to like about his game. And there's a few with interesting siblings as well. Connor Gordon packing down on the open side for Stirling Wolves. You see him with the headband there in the centre of your picture. Brother of Tom, Glasgow Warriors flanker, who's been pushing hard for a Scotland debut in recent seasons. Man then for Gelderbloom. Bursting in comes Steele.
Good footwork by Steele.
Well, the three shaven-headed destroyers are causing problems for Stirling Wolves at the moment. Steele, Pecure and Godsmark taking it in turns to punch holes. That's awkward for Houston. Couldn't deal with it. Stirling Wolves have it, and then it's just lost forwards. There's Christie trying to scoop it up. And Bruce Houston sends it back from whence it came. And that's a good kick to force Stirling Wolves back towards their 22 and avert a potentially difficult situation.
Yeah, just a bit of a mix-up in communication there. I mean, clearly for me anyway, that's Houston's ball. He should be racing onto that, but he just caught Jed Gelderbloom, I think, coming back towards it, and it just put him in two minds, allowed the ball to bounce and snapped up by Stirling Wolves. And I thought Christie had knocked it on. Referee said no, it just went loose, and Heriot's Rugby kick it downfield and have got themselves another great attacking opportunity.
It's not a bad spot for a game of rugby, is it, Bruce? Not on a day like today.
There's a few scenic pitches around Scottish rugby, but this is certainly up there.
Well, these two have contested some really tight battles in recent seasons. In the Championship post-COVID last year, 2 one-point games, a win apiece, 17-18 and 17-16. And then last season, Stirling County as they were then, rather put Heriot to the sword. 45 points they scored here at Bridgehaugh in the sprint series. This one looking to be pretty tight as well as we approach half-time. The take from Ferguson, Nottingham-born lock forward. Rudy Lushman's made a real mess of that. Almost pilfered it back for Heriot. Christie sends it long and high. Pure can't deal with it. Nor can Ian Wilson. It is Heriot's ball though. Houston, Brown, Steele inside to Godsmark on the scissors. It's away from Grant. Not dangerous every time Steele, Godsmark and Pecure get the ball in space. Gamble now, loose one out the back looking for Houston. He has to recover and finds Steele again. It's an unorthodox little grubber kick, but it will do the job of calming things down and ending that frenetic little set of phases.
Yeah, it was a good kick initially by Christie. Contestable kick for the Wolves. They got under it, and the ball went loose, snapped up by Heriot. And again, as they tried to go through the phases, Dan Gamble with the loose pass out the back, but they never seem to panic when they're going backwards. Just mopped up nicely, kick back downfield, and once again we've got a line out which the Heriots very nearly made a mess of just a moment or two ago. So they'll Leishman, I'm sure, will have another go at this one.
It's a clean take from Cruikshank. And away they come down the blind side. It's a very good tackle. Jed Gelderbloom on the spot to cut down Stevie Hamilton, who we've hardly seen so far.
He really went looking for work last week. Popped up all over the park, did Hamilton, just trying to spark something from his side, but as you say, we've not really seen much of him today. I'd quite like to see a shot of that again. That was there's often not a lot of space down 5 metre channel, but then occasionally it's the easiest place to find space on a rugby pitch, because defences just think, well, there's nothing there, we don't need to mark it, and you often find there's either nobody there or one person there, and you can get a very easy 2-on-1, but on that occasion it looked well marked. Bundled into touch by Heriots, and it will now be a Heriots throw into the line out, actually just on the Stirling side of halfway.
Still just 19 years old, Jed Gelderbloom. He made that impressive hit on Hamilton. Still with the Scotland under-20s squad at the moment. He came through the prestigious Oakham school that has the likes of Lewis Moody and Tom Croft among its former pupils. Jack Van Poortvliet just a couple of years ahead of him as well, the England scrum half. Meanwhile, this is Route 1 stuff from Heriots, and it's impressive. The red, black and white jerseys sucked in by this penetrating drive. Mann breaks off on his own. Gelderbloom has to go in to protect, so Fenton will step in as scrum half. Leishman can't take the pass, and now perhaps a chance for the Wolves to counter. Holden, Trotter in the line, lovely distribution to Alex Tong. Cut down on halfway. It's Godsmark with the cover tackle. Hiddleston the try scorer. Gelderbloom back there. Terrific work from the young scrum half, almost wins the penalty. Connor Gordon, the co-captain, barrels over halfway, and this time Heriots do steal it, and it is Rory Steele. Steele by name, Steele by nature. King on the counter for Heriots. Jack Mann gets away from the tackle of Cruikshank. Steaming forward goes Mann. Pecure with him. One-on-one with Trotter. Good covering from Logan Trotter. And he's regathered the pass as well. He's conceded the penalty, but it could have been an awful lot worse for Stirling Wolves. End-to-end fair as this contest at Bridgehaugh comes to life.
It really is an incredibly entertaining match, and part of that is because neither side have quite got the clinical edge that their coaches would hope, so that they're getting into good positions, not finishing it off, turnover ball. The other side comes back and just it's like end-to-end basketball stuff. Another fantastic opportunity for Heriots there. They had one a moment or two ago. They got a driving line out that must have made 10-15 yards. Man at the back, he broke away. He probably picked the right time to go. He got them on the front foot, and then they tried to slow it down. I felt they could have played quickly away from that, but they slowed it down. The next pass was lost, and Stirling then threatened to go the length before the ball was turned over up at the other end of the pitch, and then back come Heriots. So for the neutral, it is very entertaining. For supporters of either side, it's heart and mouth stuff. We've got a special halftime feature for you in a few minutes' time. Rona Lloyd, the star of the Scotland women's team, will be taking us through her rugby journey. Some of the moments that made her career. A sad sight to see, meanwhile, as Dan King, the teenager, is forced off, and Ross Jones, who's a very assured presence in the back three, the 30-year-old Welshman, will replace him, and that will be effectively a like-for-like substitution. Started most of the games, if not all of them, in the sprint series at fullback, did Ross Jones, so I don't think they'll lose much there. Sadak takes. Heriots would love to end this first half with a third try. Jack Mann eyeing that line. Gelderbloom acting as the rudder. Mann pierces off on his own and plunges over.
That's a dagger between the ribs for the Stirling Wolves. Heriot's pounce. They take advantage of the rolling maul, and the colossal man scores the try.
Simple stuff there by Heriot. Win the line out, get them all well set, and it's moving forward. And man just picks the right time to break off that blind side. Unmanned, no pun intended, there by Stirling, and the easiest of tries in the end for the big number 8. And it's interesting, they set up their driving line out. We spoke earlier when Gregor Hiddleston scored from a line out for Stirling Wolves. Often modern day rugby, it's the hooker at the back there, but not always. And in fact, Ian Wilson often finds himself at the back of in that position. He scored 2 tries against Boroughmuir just in their final game of the sprint series. But now when Jack Mann is there, they put him there, and that's twice now he's broken away, and he makes good ground when he breaks away from the back of that. And on that occasion, the line was too close and over he went.
Houston's toughest kick of the afternoon so far. He's nailed his first 2. This to take the gap to 16 points. Oh, it's terrific from Houston. Superb from the touchline. 21 points to 5 as we head towards the final minute of the first half. So 1 minute of the first half remaining, and Heriots have asserted supremacy with that try from Mann. 3-score game now. Gelderbloom goes to the skies. Trotter under this one. It's good chasing from Govenlock to make that tackle again. It's the second time he's done that on Logan Trotter. Cruikshank. Christie. It's untidy at the base for the Wolves. Connor Gordon. It's for the 1 or 2. Over the ball though is Dan Gamble, and Heriots win the penalty. And that has rather been the story of the first half for Stirling Wolves. Unable to build that momentum, unable to find a cutting edge.
We can see Gamble that, well, Houston's just got in the way of him with the 3 jersey on, and if you wanted to paint somebody that if they got themselves over a ball was going to be hard to move, it would be Dan Gamble.
Bruce Houston's called for the kicking tee here. Did similar last weekend against the Ayrshire Bulls, albeit that was a kick right on half-time to keep his team in touch with the defending champions. They've certainly built on that. Be positive, certainly first hour or so down at Millbrae. This would move them on to 24 points. It is a long way out. It's a pretty big pitch at Bridgehaugh, but Houston very capable off the tee.
It was blowing a gale here at Bridgehaugh last weekend, but hardly a breath of wind, so a great day for the kickers. I think he's at least got this distance in him, and probably more if he catches it well.
He's 3 from 5 against the Ayrshire Bulls. He's 3 from 3 so far. He's given it a fair old lick as Bruce Houston, and it goes straight between the posts. Fabulous kick from the Northern Irishman, and a fabulous first half display from Heriots. They've been powerful, they've been ruthless when it's mattered. 3 tries to the good, and that Bruce Houston penalty makes it a 19-point game at the break. Stirling Wolves 5, Heriots Rugby 24.
Stirling Wolves 5, Heriots 24.
Now, some big games in the offing for Scotland's women's national side. They're gearing up for a World Cup in New Zealand in the autumn, and they take on the USA on Saturday the 27th of August before hosting Spain on Sunday the 11th of September. Both games at the Damhealth Stadium in Edinburgh, and they are crucial preparations for the World Cup. Ahead of those matches, Scotland international Rona Lloyd, the flying winger of Brian Eason's side, tells us all about the moments that made her along her rugby journey.
Hi, I'm Rona Lloyd, and these are the moments that made me. So this is a photo of when we qualified for the World Cup in Dubai this year. I was involved, I got my first cap in 2016, which was the year that the last round of World Cup qualifiers, where we lost to Spain on aggregate over a 2-match series. And being part of that, I was 19 at the time, was like it was just extremely hard to see the older girls in the squad that were going to retire, that were never going to go to a World Cup, and kind of definitely felt like almost like responsible for that as kind of one of the more inexperienced players in the squad. And yeah, it was like such a horrible feeling at the end of that game, and I remember thinking then like that I didn't ever want to feel that way again or let that happen. So to have been in the squad during that 5 years and watched us grow from strength to strength with like a lot of the same faces to then qualify for the World Cup in Dubai was like absolutely incredible. And we were the bottom seed going into Euros, which we got out of at second place, and then we beat Colombia to eventually like secure our spot for the World Cup, which will be Scotland's first in 12 years. So it's just been like the most like incredible roller coaster to get there. So yeah, like super proud to have been part of that, and it's a really like monumental moment for Scottish women's rugby. So this is a photo of the team that I'm playing for this season, which is Le Lions de Stade Bordelais in Bordeaux over in France. It's my like first season playing over there, and a photo from my first match with them in the league there. And like going to France was like a pretty last minute decision that I made over the summer, and I just couldn't have predicted like what an incredible experience it would be, or like how quickly I would just fall in love with that team. And I think it's been like an excellent decision for my rugby, but also off the pitch to like be the person who can't speak the language is like not an experience I think you get very often as an English speaker. And I've like learnt so much about myself in the first couple of months there, and like I don't know where I'll be in the future, but that team I think will always be extremely special to me. It's just such a brilliant bunch of girls, and we're top of the league at the moment, which Bordeaux haven't been for 10 years. So it's been a very special season to be with the club, and yeah, I'm looking forward to like finishing off the league with them. The next photo is a photo of me running out with the Barbarians to play against South Africa at Twickenham, which was like to get selected for the Barbarians was an absolute honour, and I got the call on my birthday from the manager, so it seemed a bit like a birthday present too. But it just came at like such like a brilliant time, and last season was hard with the I was training with the Olympics and didn't get selected and stuff. So then to get selected for the Barbarians really felt like a really incredible opportunity. The match so we were meant to be playing after the men's match, a double header against Samoa, but the men had COVID, and unfortunately the match had to get cancelled, which meant that we became like the headline event at Twickenham. So like it was just absolutely wild, and I met like so many special friends there and got to play with like absolute legends of game from all over the world who I've kept in contact with. And I think you hear about the Barbarians and everybody says it's special, but actually to be there I kind of got to experience firsthand like what an incredible thing it is to be part of. And yeah, it was like one of the coolest matches of rugby I've ever played in my life, so it was extremely special. Yeah, so last photo here is a picture of my mum and dad after the match. It was a match against France away where I think we lost, it was like 35-12, but we scored our first try against France in 9 years during that time, and I scored a try that match, and it was the only time I got the ball. And it was so funny because my parents after the game didn't care that we'd lost or anything. They were just like so excited that I'd scored a try. And I've got like so many photos exactly like this one after matches, or of my parents with the other girls, and it's so special to me like how supportive they've been throughout all the rugby journey, that now they get to like share kind of what I'm doing playing for Scotland, and like everybody in the team knows them. And yeah, they're just like kind of like my two biggest supporters, so I love seeing their faces after matches, and it doesn't matter if we win or lose, they're always like the same with me, and I'm like just super lucky to have those guys.
Yeah, great to hear more about Rona Lloyd's backstory. She's a tremendous asset to the Scotland women's squad and to her Loughborough Lightning team in the Allianz Premier 15s as well. A massive few months of rugby coming up for Brian Eason's team before they head off to New Zealand for the long-awaited return to the world stage. Meanwhile, with us here at Stirling, it's the Wolves 5, Heriots 24 at the interval, as the shadows begin to lengthen at Bridgehaugh and the evening begins to dawn upon us. And it's been an entertaining half of rugby. 4 tries, split 3-1 in favour of Heriots, and this the first of them from Lewis Govenlock. Really well worked kick receipt, Bruce.
Yeah, that was superb, and they had created that opportunity from multiple kicks, and they picked the right moment to go. It was Dan King, who sadly lost for the second half, that made the break. He had support there with him, and Lewis Govenlock on the inside, the man to go over.
We associate Stirling Wolves with attacking rugby, with high tempo stuff, but this was more conventional, a well worked maul, like Gregor Hiddleston at the back, as the hooker often is, to the dot down.
And teams playing at this level should have a good driving line out. I said last year on the sprint series I was a bit critical of them, and they didn't, but that was a nice pass through there to Ian Wilson, running a lovely line, and Jed Gelderbloom, like any good scrum half, on the inside to take that return pass.
Yeah, from one maul to another, right on half-time. Alex Mann pouncing from the back of this one, and as you'd expect at this level, it's well executed, it's converted.
There was nobody there because they're all committed to the maul defence, as they would have to do, because they were going back at a rate of knots. And Mann, as he had done so a moment or two before, is picking the right moment to break away from the back of the line out and plunges over for a try.
How about this for a kick? The last act of the half, Bruce Houston nailing it from almost fully 50 metres to make it Stirling Wolves 5, Heriots Rugby 24 at the interval. Is there a way back, Bruce, for Stirling Wolves? They are down on numbers, they're missing a lot of players. You feel they have to score next to avoid this becoming rather one-sided?
Yes, I was going to say, I hate saying that. I always seem to say that myself, that they have to be the next side to score, but they absolutely do here, just to give themselves a bit of confidence if they can get this back to 24-12 and then get another one and Heriot start feeling the pressure. But you just wonder where that try is going to come from. They've had their moments. They could be further behind. Heriots Rugby will be disappointed that they didn't make more of a couple of other opportunities, but the Wolves had one or two, and it is just one or two. They have to be really clinical and take anything that comes their way and just see if they can find any way whatsoever back into this game. And it might be through something as simple, if you like, as they're getting position in the corner and try and get that line out going again. And we always say they've got to get their key players their hands on the ball, because they're head and shoulders above, if you like. Marcus Holden, Benedict Grant, Gregor Christie has been impressive, Gregor Hiddleston. They have to find a way of getting those players into the game, onto the ball, and perhaps, but you've got to say that at this stage Heriot Rugby are very strong favourites to come away with the win.
I'm not sure we've seen enough of those big players from a Stirling point of view, have we?
We really haven't. We saw more of Holden last week when he was playing fullback, but actually popping up at 12, so I'm not quite sure. I mean, maybe they just haven't had if we were to have a look at possession stats, they maybe just haven't had enough of the ball to be able to hit him. I'm not sure. You're maybe counting Benedict Grant's carries, because you also did that last week. I've got no idea, but he doesn't
It's
seem...
actually a very helpful graphic from Stirling Wolves on their Twitter feed.
But I should have a look at Twitter then more often.
22 carries he made last week, and I don't think he's made half of that in this first half.
No, I don't think so. So but I suppose the first part of that equation is they have to win more ball. They have to go through phases. I think last week they'd be lucky if they went through 3 or 4 phases. They've got to put pressure on this Heriot Rugby defence, and from a Heriot's point of view, they'd just be looking for more of the same, because they played some really nice rugby. They've wasted a couple of opportunities. They really should have scored under the posts at one point, and very nearly then conceded at the other end from the breakaway. But I think all in all, their coaching staff will be very happy with what they've seen in that first half.
Bruce Houston always strikes me as such an influential presence, a guy with plenty of professional experience, having come through the ranks at Ulster, played at a good level, played one game for Ulster against Leinster a couple of seasons ago. He's been consistently excellent in the Super 6 post-COVID.
He's one of my favourite players in the competition, and he has everything. He's a great distributor. He doesn't run an awful lot with the ball, but he picks his passes wonderfully well. You saw one of the tries there was Gelderbloom's try, the second Heriot's try, when he put Ian Wilson through the gap, having juggled it a little bit. It was Govenlock that scored. So he essentially created that try. He's kicked 9 points I think is my arithmetic correct. So he's very, very influential, and I think Heriots are a different side when they don't have him at the helm.
Still just 23 years old, Bruce Houston. I think if he became Scottish qualified, he might be of interest to one of the professional teams as they look to bolster their ranks in that position. And this is very much the coming man of the under-20 set-up, Ewan Cunningham. He will get this second half off and running. 40 minutes for Stirling Wolves to try and pull this from the fire, and they won't, unfortunately, with restarts such as that one. And Heriots will start the second half with a scrum right in the middle of the pitch, and one of the most enviable attacking positions in the game of rugby.
I thought Cunningham had done himself some damage there when he kicked that. He looked like he was holding his leg, but I think in actual fact he was just disgusted with himself at the kick. I was just about to say it'll do players like that, Scotland under 20, the world of good, playing week in, week out against players of the quality of Bruce Houston, which is one of the benefits of this competition. It's playing alongside players with a bit more experience than you, and also playing opposite players with a bit more, and you can aspire to that level. But to go back to your question, yeah, this is a fantastic attacking opportunity. We saw Heriots make a wonderful break in the first half down the right hand side, so if they were to try and replicate that, that would go obviously away across to the stand side here, and they didn't have to do anything fancy. They just run hard at holes, run hard at defenders, put them in two minds. And when you've got players, I forget how you described them before, but Sam Picure, Niall Godsmart, Rory Steele, what was your description of them?
Something follicularly offensive, I suspect. But yes. Hard to tell apart as well, I must say, hard to tell apart. But each of them making good inroads in that first half. And a lot of attacking weaponry for Heriots to call upon here. Poor old Johnny Perriam running such a good dummy line that he almost ended up getting the ball. And I think you could hear over the stadium effects mic what one of the Heriots coaches thought of that.
We'll not repeat that there. And Jack Mann, again, I'd like to see that again. I thought he could have maybe taken another step forward before he fed his scrum half. I mean, in some ways you just want your number 8 in that occasion to pick and give it straight to the 9 and get him a little bit away from the back row defence, but I just got a sense that the Stirling Wolves back row were a little bit slow off. Man could have just taken a step or two forward and got the Heriots attack slightly more on the front foot. Again, that's just reading those situations really quickly as a number 8. We saw Benedict Grant get caught out in the first half, but he's going to get another shot at it.
Gelderblom. Mr. Brown. Probing kick that has bamboozled Logan Trotter with the bounce. Trotter recovers well. Benedict Grant will be the shield for Christie. On the blind side go the Wolves. And it's piling bodies into the ruck to try and pinch it. Skinner comes away. Sidak with the tackle, and Gamble not rewarded for that jackal. Possible neck roll on the tight head as well. Cunningham meanwhile clears. Here's Houston. Again, that distinctive raking style of kick. Trotter. Well, that's awkward, but it's worked out for Logan Trotter. Gets away from Wilson and Godsmark. And it went to Ferguson. Grant, massive hit from Jack Mann. Two-man tackle coming in, 8 on 8. Pow, rather isolated in the midfield channels. Heriots with the counter ruck. And there's nothing wrong with that. Heriots have the penalty.
Yeah, Logan Trotter just about got himself in trouble at the back there, trying to run that ball back, chipped over the top and very nearly plucked from the air by one of the Heriots players, but it bounced kindly for him, and they were able to set it up in the midfield out into the hands of Benedict Grant. We've spoken about his ability to go forward. Well, he was absolutely clattered by a combination of Jack Mann and Dan Gamble, knocked back, and then a phase or two later, good counter ruck. The ball was going to come back on the Heriots side, so the Wolves forced to go into the side to try and rescue the situation. The referee on the spot awards the penalty. You can see at Heriot's already in the early stages of the second half. They've tried twice to get themselves a 50-22. They just want to get the ball down into Stirling Wolves territory and play from there. Well, they've got a fantastic position in which to try and get their bonus point, or from which to try and get their bonus point try now.
And you wouldn't bet against them doing just that. Set pieces function well for them. Ian Wilson is the target this time. Wolves try to sack them all before it gets going. They can't do so. And this is very ominous indeed. It's Jack Mann for a double. He's held up. Superb last-ditch defence. It's Benedict Grant who's in there alongside Connor Gordon. That is very significant indeed for Stirling Wolves.
You can see Grant there with the 8 jersey on his back. He was out the game there. He's got back up on his feet and he's worked round alongside his co-captain. Well, in fact, in the end, he's just gone in there. The work had been done already by Cameron McMillan, and I think you were right, Connor Gordon, the co-captain. Great defence by the Wolves, similar to what we saw in the first half when they somehow managed to rescue the situation and not give away a try.
Well, here is Mann again, who reloads for another charge. Well, stopped by Gordon. Gelderbloom, God's mark. 177 sevens caps Niall Godsmark has. Houston. This is Rory Leishman, the captain. Heriot's menacing. Houston with the miss pass. Good feet from Rory Steele. That is an electric line from Steele. And Gelderbloom. It's a forward pass. He thought he was in for a second and for the bonus point try. But the ball inside from Steele. Adjudged to have gone forward.
And you see the ball there from Houston through between two Heriot's players, and Steele has been excellent. He was good last week before I think he left the field. That is marginal, probably the right call. We'll trust that the referee's closer to it than us. Jed Gelderbloom certainly didn't agree. He's done out of his second try, but well, again, 9 should just do that as a matter of course, but he scored his first try by running that inside support line to the inside ball from, it was Ian Wilson, and on that occasion, same position. The referee foiled him. Again, if you're the Heriot's coach, you've got 2 or perhaps 3 situations that they will feel they should have scored from, and if they want to challenge in this competition, they will, as moving forward, they will look for their side to be more clinical on occasions. I think they've been excellent today, but if you want to compete with the Watsonians, the Ayrshire Bulls of this world, on probably limited possession when you're up against those sides, you've got to take every opportunity, but they're showing that they can do that. They're a good side.
They take on Watsonians next weekend, Heriots. Meanwhile, they are demolishing this Stirling Wolves scrum. They're rewarded with the penalty, and that was a mighty obliteration of the Wolves pack.
You can see Chris Keane there. He is just so strong with the one on his back. And another line out in the corner, and they've got so many options here as well. Ian Wilson has been the receiver in the last 2 line. It's not somebody that you'd expect the ball to go to, not somebody that the defence expects the ball to go to, so it gives you a relatively free jump. But they've got Govanlock in there, they've got Mann, the whole back row can jump, Sadak, Leishman. So a very effective line out. I think you mentioned Cammy Fenton had missed his first line out, and I don't think he has missed another one. Watch him miss this one, because I've said that.
Stirling Wolves have made a couple of changes up front. We'll bring you details of those in just a moment. Oh, Bruce, you put the curse on him.
I knew it, I shouldn't have said it.
You put the commentator's curse on poor Cammy Fenton, who is storming away from the touchline in disgust at the squint throw. Those changes then for Stirling Wolves, Cameron McMillan and Hamish Ferguson both coming off. John McKenna coming on at loose head prop. And Harris McLeod, who is a huge prospect in every sense. You can see him just towards the left of your picture, towering high above the rest of the Wolves pack. 19-year-old lock, and he's on in the engine room. And unfortunately for Cammy Fenton, that squint through was his last act of the game. Cruel for a player not to be given the chance to atone for that mistake. So Michael Linus, who's a very reliable customer at this level, is the second sub of the afternoon for Heriot's.
Pretty harsh in the coaching box at Heriot's. One missed throw and you're hauled off, yep. Of course not the case, that would have been decided, I'm sure, before that, but yeah, disappointing for him.
It's not made any difference to the power in the Heriot scrum. It's another scrum penalty. Heriot's off and running quickly. Referee must be thinking about a card if the scrum infringements mount for Stirling Wolves. Shovelled on by Gamble to Govenlock, looking for his second. Less than a metre out now. Heriots have the bonus point in their sights. It's direct from Ian Wilson. Keane waits. On to Sedak, the Poland international. In the shadow of the Stirling posts, whipped away by McAndrew. Jones, steal one-on-one. Jones on the loop, can he finish? He's in touch. Again, Stirling Wolves survive. It's good last-ditch defence, but again, Bruce, Heriots will be very frustrated not to have made more of this.
They will. I'm not sure they picked quite the right time to go wide. I mean, most teams at nearly any level nowadays, we'll just comment on what's happening on the screen there. Was a nice little switch, a little bit out of fashion nowadays, but they've done it twice, Heriots, and it works well, but they run out of space. But yeah, you think Heriot should have scored there. I was going to say most teams go through those phases close to the line and just try and batter their way over. If you suck the defence in, you then go wide, and I think they maybe went wide a little bit too early. But that's just my take on it. You could see Bruce Houston standing at the back, trying to look as disinterested as he could. I think he was calling the shots, although he was not the receiver. I think it was him that was making that decision, and he knows an awful lot more about that than me. So we'll say that he got it right, and it just the execution wasn't quite there.
Super kick from Houston's opposite man, Ewan Cunningham. Drive the Stirling Wolves out of their own 22. The two teams have won both their opening fixtures in the FOSROC Super6, Watsonians and Boroughmuir. Heriots and Stirling defeated in round one. Heriots very much on course to register their first win of the championship season though. McAndrew for Houston. That's a testing one, and it's lost forwards, and it could get worse for Stirling. Michael Linus doing great chasing work to win it back. Wilson covered by Jones. Govenlock has Becure with him up against Alex Tom. Tom will do just enough. McAndrew, good running again from Godsmark. Stirling on the back foot. Heriots with their tails up as Leishman, the captain, can't get on the outside of Skinner. McAndrew, Houston, Jones, Steele. Picked up, slammed back down again. Gregor Christie with the tackle. McAndrew to Govenlock, again that shimmy. It's loose at the back, but it's clean for Sedak. Here's Skinner putting himself about defensively, as are all these Wolves to be fair, but the dam is creaking here. Jack Mann up against Holden, cuts inside, lovely change of pace from Mann. Holden can't steal it. McAndrew, can Heriots execute this time? Turning the screw and rattling through the phases. Wilson, good hit from Gregor Hiddleston. Leishman trying to exploit the gap around the fringe, but it was quickly closed. Jack Mann again gets another touch and another carry. It's better from Stirling defensively. James Pow playing with fire in that position. Keane. Houston, can he unlock the door? Jones, Becure, darting inside Cunningham. Holden clings on to the winger's legs. McAndrew, it's loose, and Stirling Wolves battle again. They're on the ropes, but they're clinging on It's another massive defensive set. Benedict Grant throws a forward pass, so we'll go back for the initial knock on. Bruce, it is wasteful from Heriot's, but I think we have to credit the doggedness, the determination of Stirling Wolves in keeping Heriot's out.
That's a great defensive set from Stirling Wolves because they were getting dragged out of shape. I love the variation in the Heriot's game, and it is very difficult to defend, but they clung on there. There were a couple of situations where they got Jack Mann out in the width, and he's not just a big ball carrier, he's got good feet, he's got great injection of pace, but they managed to deal with that. Murdo McAndrew on now at 9. I thought Jed Gelderbloom has had a good game at Murdo McAndrew as well. You can see him, he's maybe got a slightly longer pass, he's picking players further away, so as we said earlier, there was a situation when they were setting a pod of 3 and most teams will hit the middle player in the pod. Gelderbloom went to the outside player. We can see the same from McAndrew, and it just finds you a little bit more space. It's not where the defence expect it to go, and I'd love to rewind two or three minutes back. Bruce Houston looked like he'd dropped the ball, looked like a careless pass round about halfway, but actually it's them trying to be inventive. He had 2 players with him and he tried to hold on to it, and there was a player coming from deeper, and again we spoke about the influence of the coaches. For me, that's the type of thing that Stuart Edwards will bring. He's not happy with just the bog standard 3-man pod off 9 and 2 or 3 off 10. He wants he wants a bit of variation around there, keep defences guessing.
More changes then for the Stirling Wolves, as we see Craig Jackson, the former Southern Knights captain, a coffee-making mogul in Edinburgh these days. He was an emergency loan from Gala, a very, very well-known figure in the Scottish rugby circles, a very effective player at this level as well. And he is up to help Stirling Wolves out amidst their injury crisis. He's come on in midfield. Looks like Gregor Christie, the scrum half, has gone off, which might mean Ewan Cunningham has stepped in to play number 9, with Holden perhaps coming forward to play 10. Got a closer look at how they're shaping up in a moment. Logan Trotter on hand as well.
That is Cunningham at 9. I don't think they have a recognised 9 on the bench. They had Ryan Southern playing outside centre last week who can slot in at 9. There's nobody there to do it, so Ewan Cunningham is, I'm sure he'll be very capable.
Benedict Grant takes the pressure off his new scrum half with that carry. Typically abrasive efforts. Oh, Cunningham, that's dusty. Logan Trotter, who looks to have stepped in at fly half, at least for now, has to bake a cake with crumbs. He does a pretty decent job, in fact a very good job it must be said, of dealing with that. Ewan Cunningham has played a bit of scrum half in his youth career, but it's a tough ask to be covering both half-back positions, and by default almost having to play 80 minutes as well. 50 at 10 and 30 at 9. It's a tough ask.
Not easy to do, and it's you've got to change your mindset completely. I think I should probably stop speaking because I said about Cammy Fenton and he missed his next throw in, and I said how good that Cunningham would be at 9, and he made a hash of his next pass, so I'm going to stop talking.
Well, here's Michael Linus, Fenton's replacement, to a pretty canny operator at hooker. Wilson, back to McAndrew, that's loose. It's picked off by Cunningham. Has he got the legs to get under the bar? Oh, you better believe he does. Stirling Wolves in danger of flatlining, but their young halfback applies the defibrillators and gives them something to chase, something to cling to.
Well, we said that they were going to have to be the next side to score. We weren't sure where it was going to come from. Well, it turns out it comes from a mistake from Heriot. Cunningham just staying up high there in defence. And you would see, to be fair, you'd think that Murdo McAndrew would have spotted that because he was looking that way, opted to give the pass anyway, and plucked from the air by Ewan Cunningham, and he had the pace to race away. He still had a long way to go, and he was being chased, and he gets himself over. And is that just what Stirling Wolves needed? Still a 12-point margin, but that'll just give them a bit of confidence, and it might put some questions in the back of the mind of the Heriot side.
Yeah, love that from Marcus Holden. No need to stand on ceremony. 2 steps back, 2 steps forwards, through she goes. And as Bruce says, a 12 points game. Still plenty time left, just over 22 minutes to go. And Ben Cairns once more bringing the changes. Change at hooker as Hiddleston comes off and Rodri Tanner, who was a Super 6 champion with Ayrshire Bulls, comes on. And Cruikshank replaced by Sean McDonald, making his long-awaited return to competitive rugby. A really horrible ACL injury that he's had to rehab from. Captain of the county club side, stepping up to play for the Wolves today. And his confirmation of that change. And Craig Jarden, the left winger as well, has been replaced. I think Logan Jarvie will be on for him, wearing 23. Here is Grant, and suddenly Stirling Wolves have got the bit between their teeth. First touch for Tanner. Jack Mann rather slams him into the turf. This is the impetus that Stirling Wolves needed. Harris McLeod goes in to protect Cunningham. Taken on by John McKenna, the replacement loose head. Cunningham again thinks about the snipe, instead unleashes Tanner, the Welshman. Oh, but again, brilliant work over the ball, and it's Rory Steele once more in tandem with Josh Scott, who's just come on for Heriots. And that will just take the sting out of Stirling's attack.
Yeah, good work by Steele. He never really committed to the tackle because he could see the player, I think it was Tanner, was already going to deck. He didn't need to make the tackle, and that just meant he was already on his feet, ready to get hands on the ball. But good assistance from Josh Scott. And the poor, was it Cunningham that arrived? The Wolves player had a look at it and thought, well, how on earth am I going to move those two bodies? Tried to roll them off, but there was never any hope of that. And what Wolves can't do now is allow Heriots to score next. They've got, if they're not going to score in the next 5 or 6 minutes, Wolves, at least they can't concede now, and they've given Heriots a good position to work from.
Well, they've kept Heriots at bay for half of this second 40. That is not for Heriot's lack of trying. And here they go again, flexing that muscle up front. And Jack Mann will be on the hunt for a double. Remember, one more try would secure the bonus point for Heriots. As Mann goes in, Joey Britton is in there as well, the replacement flanker. Rodri Tanner ordered away, and bursting through goes Mann. A gaping hole in the Stirling defence. Mann gets his second, Heriots get their fourth, and the bonus point wrapped up on the hour mark.
Well, we've spoken a lot about the Heriots backline and how inventive they've been, but they've become more. They've got more and more on top in the forwards as this game has gone on. In the scrum, their line out has been secure, and it's 2 or 3 times now they've got that driving maul going. Very, very difficult to stop. And Jack Mann always finds himself at the back, and once he breaks away, incredibly difficult. I mean, you can see how he is built there. Very muscular. He's fast, powerful. It's a great Heriot score, and just what we said, the Wolves have to go through a period of just getting themselves, working themselves into the game, if not scoring, at least not conceding, and they have done just that.
Yeah, Jack Mann's been through the ringer from an injury point of view. A couple of serious ones. Was a contracted academy player with Edinburgh. Never quite managed to crack the pro ranks, largely due to those injuries. And he could yet be under consideration by Mike Blair as the season wears on. Houston then to break the 30-point barrier for Heriots. And true to form, he nails another one.
The conversion is successful by Bruce Houston. Another 2 points to Heriots means the score now is Stirling Wolves 12, Heriots 13-1.
He's been metronomic from the tee today, Bruce Houston.
Number 3, Dan Gamble, 4 going to see
5 from 5.
12, Kyle Brown come off.
Sven Gillis and Stuart Edwards go to their bench again. It's True and Cessford coming on for Dan Gamble at tight head prop. Bobby Kay is on for Kyle Brown at inside centre. Fraser Hasty as well coming on in the second row too. Ronan Sadak has made way.
Dan Gamble has been excellent this afternoon, apart from one loose pass when he tried to pull the ball out the back door to his fly half. He's carried well, he's tackled well. One huge hit on Benedict Grant springs to mind, and Chris Keane on the other side of the scrum for Heriot's just gone off. Good performance from both props.
Yeah, the big men have stood up and been counted for Heriot's today. It's Logan Trotter to spark something for Stirling. I haven't seen enough of him with ball in hand. And open field to run into Cunningham. Flat ball for Rodri Tanner. Former fishmonger Rodri Tanner. Playing rugby's much more fun, I'm sure. It's better carry from Logan Jarvie on the far side. Stirling working hard to retain the ball. Pow shovels it on to McKenna. He was a pretty mobile specimen at loose head. Cunningham. There they go again. Grant. Again, a big whip pass, but Alex Tom was never going to find Rodri Tanner with a ball like that. However, Johnny Perriam has spotted something here.
There'll be your penalty here. Your time's off.
It will be a Stirling Wolves penalty. There was I think an off-the-ball hit in midfield. Perhaps just an offside. Yeah, it was an obstruction from Uri Leishman, the Heriot's captain. And Johnny Perriam, in consultation with his assistants, able to come to the right conclusion. The upshot here, Bruce, once the injured player is patched up. In fact, we'll just get another look at this here. Yeah, there's the block from Leishman on Ewan Cunningham. It's at the front of your screen. Pretty blatant as far as the assistant referee is concerned. You're not going to get away with that.
I was just going to say, couldn't have made that any more obvious if he had tried.
And this Stirling Wolves do not need. So many injuries just now, already down to the bare bones, already relying on emergency loans, and they're losing another player. It looks like it's Don McKenna, in fact, who has only been on for about 10 minutes. Off he goes. Cameron McMillan is having to trundle back on. Having already played about 55 minutes of rugby, he'd have been feet up, guzzling a protein shake. Maybe something stronger. I'm not sure what the rules are for Super 6 players. But he is back on for the final 16 minutes or so. And the need of Stirling Wolves is great right now. You really must score from this position to have any chance of staging a late fight back. The Heriots have disrupted that maul, but here comes the secondary shove. Goes to ground just short. Tanner. Cunningham. McMillan. Can he ride to Stirling's rescue off the bench? Another infringement from Heriots.
Wolves didn't quite get their maul set there, but it was enough to get some go forward. Tanner, as you say, got the ball presented back and they had the opportunity to play away. The Heriots defence looks very organised, and it looks to me like Ian Wilson's the main organiser in there. Always shouting players round, making space for them, and checking that everything is in order, that they're connected, they're coming off the line square. He's a very good player, Wilson, but a good communicator as well.
Tanner's throw. Leishman got fingertips to it, and it did go backwards, so Heriot survive. Away they come through Pecure. Andrew folding that blind side. Sesford. He is a massive human being, 6'5", close to 20 stones in weight. Very proficient flour miller as well, of all things, Stuart Sesford. Rising star in the milling business. Not a bad rugby player either. Was well taken by Hamilton. Cunningham. McMillan. And they go. It's Beckett's ball. Now perhaps Logan Trotter can open his legs a bit. Steele trying to pinch it. It's making an awful mess of the breakdown, and they do have it back through Steele. Jones now rumbling forward. Goes Josh Scott. McAndrew. Houston just trying to bring some calmness to proceedings. Trotter. He's found some space back there. Stevie Hamilton is tearing after it. Ross Jones recovers. It's not a vintage kick from Ross Jones. Stirling Wolves want to go quick. They do, and off they go. Benedict Grant with that big, explosive sidestep. Suddenly they're right back in the danger zone. Can they make it count? Can they breach this stubborn Heriot's defence? McMillan awkwardly to Beckett. Alex Tom probing the far side. Cunningham, James Pow escaped the clutches of Fraser Hastie. Oh, Cunningham might have fumbled that, he did. And it's those little mistakes, little flash of inaccuracy that is costing Stirling Wolves right now. And it's a man out of position who just makes that little error.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You've got to feel for him there. He's been asked to play out of position, and when you're not training there, it's just those little things that, you know, a ball maybe caught up a bit in the feet. You're thinking more than you ought to be because it's an unusual position, and you're thinking ahead, what am I going to do here? And you just knock on a ball that you wouldn't normally expect to do. And again, you see Logan Trotter walking off the side of your screen there. We thought that the spark for the Wolves might come from him with ball in hand, but it actually came from the kick there. It was a fantastic kick cross field, and the clearance wasn't great from Ross Jones. Didn't find any distance. They went quickly and hit Benedict Grant. Good feet, set up the position, but again the opportunity wasted by Stirling Wolves. Just unable to go through again enough phases to really pressurise that Heriot's defence.
They've got a short turnaround for round 3, do Stirling Wolves. They host the Southern Knights, who make the journey north from the Green Yards on Friday night, live on Free Sports. 7:45 kick-off for that one. Heriot's taking the last game of the round again, but they are back at home, back at Goldenacre for a good old Edinburgh derby against high-flying Watsonians, who are 2 from 2 after seeing off defending champions Ayrshire Bulls in today's lunchtime kick-off. All those matches, of course, live on either on Free Sports if it's a Friday night game, or with us on YouTube and the BBC Sports Scotland platforms for the Saturday fixtures. More bad news for Stirling County because Craig Jackson has had to come off. He's only just come on. I think Craig Jardine may be back with us. We'll get confirmation of that in just a moment. Oh, Jack Mann again, piercing through, and he is running rampant at Bridgehaugh. Man against Trotter. Trotter does just enough to force the fumble, and Stirling will survive. And now Stevie Hamilton trying to make some headway in the opposite direction, and Heriot's not rolling away.
I could see you were lining yourself up there for man against boy if he had got his hand off right there, and you stopped yourself, and Logan Trotter stopped the galloping Jack Mann. I mean, what a break by the big number 8. He's had a wonderful game, showed his pace there. You can see pick up from the base of the scrum, just pushes off Cunningham, and away he goes. You can see the determination in his face, and he had nothing in his mind other than just going the length there. Across came Trotter, and out came the hand from Mann, and he got his left arm free, the ball into it. He had support there, unable to get it away. So good work by Trotter, and actually there was just about enough Stirling Wolves defence back that it wasn't a certainty for a score, even if the offload had gone to hand. So good scramble defence by Stirling, but man, what a player. And that's Squint.
Yeah, it's another Squint one. It's Rodri Tanner who can't find his mark. I guess, Bruce, for a player like Jack Mann, who has been in the professional setup as an academy contracted player, who's had injuries, who's perhaps lost his place in that contracted setup because of his fitness issues, the Super 6 must be really important for a guy like that, who's 22, who needs to play, who's clearly capable of going on and performing at a higher level, but needs the platform to do it.
That's exactly right. Yes, it's hard, I guess, to do harder to do from the club game. In this, he's in the shop window. He's up against some really good players, and he's showing it is very difficult to handle at this level. And for me, he's certainly got what it takes to play at the next level.
Here he goes again, Jack Mann. This time releases Bobby Kay. He was a starter last weekend down at Ayrshire. This time playing a role from the bench. Houston hammers it long. Trotter on the counter. Cunningham. Tanner shovels it on to McMillan. Good work from Michael Linus. Just ordered off it in time. Jarvie goes in. So too Harris McLeod, a 19-year-old lock forward. Cunningham from Grant. Good handling from Stirling Wolves. That's better. It's much better. And Alex Tom burning away from Godsmark, who recovers really well. And Ross Jones exploits the loose ball. Not enough chasers there to clear him off for Stirling Wolves. And in the end, a pretty easy turnover for the Welshman. Cessford took it on further. 9 minutes of the match remaining. Feels like it is Heriot's now. A 3-score lead. And surely will not be overturned. Stirling Wolves chasing a losing bonus point. Register their first point of the season. That's a fabulous run from Trotter. This is what he can do. And on his shoulder is Logan Jarvie. Super stuff from Stirling Wolves. At long last, we see Logan Trotter in open prairie. And namesake Jarvie finishes it off.
Well, that's what we know Logan Trotter can do. It arcs away on the outside, and I don't think Rory Steele will be particularly happy with his attempted tackle there, because he was on hand. But Logan Trotter, he's travelling at pace. He's stronger than he looks. He looks wiry. He's tall, but he's got a bit of strength about him as well. And in broken field, he's a very dangerous player.
This could be quite an important kick from wide on the left. And it struck the upright. No dice for Stirling Wolves. 14-point game. Stirling Wolves need a converted try for a losing bonus point. 2, of course, would snatch a draw.
And that try, should they get it, the losing bonus point, it would also be their 4th try, so they would pick up a try scoring bonus point as well, which would be a disappointing outcome from two home games to start with, but at least something to show for your efforts.
Benedict Grant then fields the kick-off. He has been a tireless workhorse for the Stirling Wolves. At times he really does drag them forward out of some very dark corridors. 7 minutes left. Is there to be a twist in the tail at Bridgehaugh? It's a bit loose from Heriot's. Jackman plunges on it. And he's holding on. No support there to clear out. It's James Pow who wins the penalty. Stirling Wolves not done yet. Rory Steele down receiving treatments. Looks like a good old spot of cramp for the Heriot's winger. As Trotter drives the Wolves forward. 6 minutes or so remaining. Here come the Wolves. Tanner's throws better this time. James Pow sacked before the maul can get going. Rudy Leishman ordered off the loose ball. McMillan. It's a big old collision. Ian Wilson put his head in there. Rodri Tanner. Cunningham. Beckett. Tucked under the tackle of Linus. Not a high shot. Cunningham disguises it to Harris McLeod. McMillan and Breeze are with him. And then again, Benedict Grant. Looking for soft shoulders or hard ones, he doesn't much care. Stirling Wolves desperate to take something from this game, but it's loose, it's spilled, and Rory Leishman gallops away. And he knocks it on himself. But no advantage accruing, and that will just slow the game down. It will take away Stirling Wolves' momentum, and it might just be the error that denies them the losing bonus point. But here at Bridgehaugh, as time ticks on, it is a suitable moment, Bruce, to name your FOSROC Super6 Player of the Match.
Yes, well, he's there in the centre of your picture now. Number 8, Jack Mann. I don't think will be any surprise to anyone who's watched this afternoon. There were a few other candidates because it's been a dominant performance up front for Heriot. I've already mentioned the 2 props, Chris Keenan, Dan Gamble, I thought were excellent. Bruce Houston is always marshals his troops well and bosses the game. There's some good performances in the back line. Rory Steele has stood out for me, but Jack Mann, as I've said during commentary, he's just brought everything this afternoon to this game. His ball carrying, his pace, his power. There's a moment or two ago when he just put in a huge collision, a huge hit in the midfield, and if he can keep himself healthy, there will be people watching with interest at the next level, I suspect. So this afternoon's FOSROC Player of the Match, Heriot's number 8, Jack Mann.
Yeah, he's made a thunderous start to the new Super 6 season. It was very impressive down at Millbrae last weekend, up against Blair McPherson, a really tasty one-on-one battle at the number 8s. And he is certainly shone brightest at Bridgehaugh today. 5 minutes left. McAndrew, Houston, Godsmark, Bobby Kay on the run around, burning away from the cover. Options left and right. Kay delays the pass, and then Jones can't restore the ball back to him. Logan Trotter saves the day. The Stirling Wolves' quest for a losing bonus point still alive. Beckett has to go wide. It might be on here on the counter. Jarvie, Rodri Tanner of all people, lurking on the edge. Cunningham, Beckett. Show and go from big old Harris McLeod. And high shots, which, given Harris McLeod is 6'7", takes some doing.
I think, was it Bobby Kay that made the break? I think he picked the wrong man. I think he had Sam Pecure and he's outside on the left. You see it here, racing away. And Logan Trotter, to be fair, is facing that way. So if the pass had been given to Pecure, Logan Trotter is accelerating into him. But I just think Pecure was travelling fast enough and was close enough to the line that he would have been in. I think Kay just tried to be a little bit too clever with the inside ball, and another wasted opportunity for Heriot. You say, well, it doesn't matter, they've won the game, they've got their 4 tries, but again, they're just the opportunities that they need to be finishing off as this season progresses.
Last few minutes for the man of the match, Jack Mann. He might yet have more damage to wreak. Loose line out from the Wolves. Bobby Kay this time does release Pecure, albeit not in quite as good a position. Pecure doesn't mind though, burning away, and Jarvie, crucial tackle. Trotter couldn't make the interception this time. Godsmark had it. McAndrew. Heriot's trying to finish with a flourish. This is Joey Britton. It's his second Super 6 game, the Englishman. Jones dabs the kick through. Pecure wasn't in a position to chase, but this will gobble up a few more seconds, and it will keep Stirling Wolves pinned near their own try line.
Well, Pecure still certainly got plenty of pace because he didn't have a lot of space to work with there. But went on the outside of his man, raced away up the touchline. You can see he's hurt himself a little bit there, but I think he'll be quite happy with his performance over the first 2 weeks because he was good. 2 tries last week at Millbrae. I'd like to have seen Ross Jones keep that ball in hand and just, again, gone through the phases, put Stirling Wolves under pressure in their own 22. And it just went to the boot too early for me. There was nobody really there to chase it. It's still a difficult defensive position now for the Wolves.
Well, the line-out does function to Connor Gordon.
Josh out now, no. Don't chase Josh away, move you.
And up it goes from Cunningham. Only Lyall to work with, not a lot of yards plundered. It's games like this from which Ewan Cunningham will learn so much, Bruce. He's been away with the 20s, he's now in amongst it in men's rugby. he's having to play 9 and 10 full 80 minutes. It's tough going, but he'll take plenty in terms of learning from this experience.
There's no doubt. I mean, he'll hope not to be pushed in to play 9 very often, and anything that he learns in the last 20 minutes, he'll hope to never have to put into practice again. But he's done well in difficult circumstances there. But as a standoff, I think his game got an excellent future in front of him. Again, a Stirling boy. I think he's come up through the ranks here, and great to see players progress from their youth side, the club side, and up into Super 6.
Final minute of the match then. Heriot's turning the screw as they bid to end with a 5th try and end on a positive note. And they are going up the guts, taking on this Wolves pack. Now McAndrew releases it wide. Houston with a cross kick. Where's this one going? Rory Steele, the recipient, darts inside. Steele with Godsmark on his shoulder. Super last-ditch defence again from Stirling Wolves. Logan Trotter underneath it. Rodri Tanner making the tackle. You cannot fault the Wolves' spirit, particularly in their own 22.
That's 3 times they've managed to deny Heriot's a try when they were over the try line, and they've somehow got hands or bodies underneath it. Once again, Rory Steele, we mentioned when considering the player of the match. When he gets his hands on the ball, he looks dangerous, supporting inside there by Godsmark, somehow kept out.
So goal line dropouts, last play of the match. Heriot's regather really well through Fraser Hastie, who gets dumped onto his face for his troubles. Linus, unorthodox dummy from the hooker. What do Heriots have left in reserve? Jack Mann, now he'd love to finish with a hat-trick try. McAndrew, Wilson dummying, slaloming and releasing Rory Steele to score. Heriots apply a great slather of icing to their big fat bonus point cake, and Rory Steele cramps up as he goes over to end this match with a try.
And he deserves a try, the winger Ian Wilson there, Heriot's number 7, creating the opportunity, just ghosting through a gap in front of him. He's another who's had a fantastic afternoon, more so in defence, led that defensive line. He's taken 3 line-outs, if memory serves me correctly, and on that occasion he turns provider to put his winger in for the 5th try of the afternoon.
2 assists for Ian Wilson.
He's had a fantastic afternoon. He really is a good player. I mean, you would say he was approaching the twilight of his career. Is that,
yeah,
is
34
that the
next month?
34, yeah. So, but yeah, he's still an excellent player. I've watched him for many years around Scottish rugby and always been impressed by him at whatever level he has played at. Former captain, of course, of the Heriot's rugby side, and I said earlier, a great communicator, still a good leader in this side.
Bruce Houston's 5 from 5 off the tee. He's nailed 1 from the left touchline. This will be the last act of the game. On the right flank to maintain his perfect records. It is a beauty. Houston scribes the final words of this Super 6 contest. He preserves his perfect record, and he turns 5 points into a magnificent 7. As Heriot's Rugby register their first win of the campaign. It took them 2 attempts after falling to Ayrshire Bulls in round 1. But boy, they have bounced back. They have dominated Stirling Wolves in their own backyard. They've had too much power, too much panache, and too much precision as well. Bruce Houston a very big part in that, with 13 points from the tee. But a 5-try victory for Heriot's Rugby, 5 points on the Super 6 table, and they've beaten Stirling Wolves by 38 points to 17.
Still to come, the player of the match, Jack Mann, will be presented with his medal. But if you are heading home, we'd like to thank you for your support today. Hope you've enjoyed it with us here at Bridgehaugh. I'm sure you have. A thoroughly entertaining game of rugby. And myself, Hugh Brown, and all of us here at Bridgehaugh have a very safe journey home.
Well, let's take a look at some of the best of the action from Bridgehaugh today. A try-laden affair in the Stirling sunshine, and it all began with this effort from Lewis Govenlock just 6 minutes in. Bruce, tremendous work off kick receipt to work that blindside.
Yeah, 2 or 3 kicks back and forward. They picked the time to go well. Dan King making the break, and Lewis Govenlock, the blindside flanker, going over for the first try.
Yeah, Bruce Houston, this became a running theme, banging over the extras. That one much simpler than the kicks he was faced with later in the contest. Stirling Wolves did strike back almost immediately though, just 7 minutes later. Scotland under 20 Euchre Gregor Hiddleston barrowing over from this maul. He's a player with a big future.
Yeah, that's 2 fantastic performances from him. One of the best in Stirling Wolves jersey last week and this. And you do wonder if they'd managed to create more opportunities close to the line. From memory, they only had one more. Could they have crossed that try line more? Bruce Houston juggling that one and putting Ian Wilson through.
Yeah, Jake Gelderbloom finishing that one off. It's perhaps a touch fortuitous with the juggle from Houston holding those defenders, but nothing lucky about the support lines from Wilson and from Gelderbloom. And then Jack Mann, the man of the match, powering over for try number 3. He was excellent today.
He was superb. I mean, this was relatively easy for him. Just had to bide his time. And as the maul slowed down, the Wolves had already committed all the available players to it, and there was nobody manning that blind side. I'll have to stop saying manning actually, because
yeah, we love puns in commentary, don't worry.
It was not intended.
Oh, Bruce Houston again slotting the extras, and then he nailed this penalty from just inside the Stirling Wolves half, just right of centre. That was the last act of the first 40 minutes. And typically it was very assured from Houston. However, Stirling Wolves gave themselves a chance. This pass from Murdo McAndrew picked off by Ewan Cunningham, and he went from 60.
Yes, Heriot's maybe overcomplicating that slightly, and Ewan Cunningham coming up just standing, and how Murdo McAndrew didn't see him I do not know, but he threw the ball straight to him, plucked it from the air, and over he goes. And at that point, 24 points to 12, you thought, well, have the Wolves given themselves a chance?
Well, they had given themselves a chance, but that chance was extinguished just 4 minutes after Cunningham's try. And guess who? Jack Mann, appearing from between a forest of bodies to gallop away untouched. Again, not the most difficult try he'll ever score, but it's well taken nonetheless.
Again, just the maul broke up in front of him, darted through, and not a soul there. It was some of his other runs that he looked more impressive. There was one where he went just about the length of the field, but he did what he had to do there as well. Yeah, this from Logan Trotter. The first time, sadly, we really saw him in open prairie. 72 minutes gone, and he set up young Logan Jarvie outside him to grab another try for Stirling. 2 really impressive young outside backs, particularly Logan Trotter. But then it was Heriot who had the final words with Rory Steele. Again, brilliant work this from Ian Wilson, and Steele finishing off with a run-in. Yeah, good work by Wilson and Steele, who done some great work all afternoon, going over for a simple one and going back to Trotter at the other end. Just little simple things. There'd be players that would fall off their pass there, allow the fullback to drift across and make the tackle, but he stayed very, very square, didn't allow the fullback to drift off him and put in his winger, and we didn't see enough from Logan Trotter today. Stirling Wolves will want to see more from him in coming weeks. Yeah, so the final score then at Bridgehaugh, Stirling Wolves 17, Heriot's Rugby 38. 8 tries share between these two teams, and a total of 55 points. Entertainment always on show in the FOSROC Super 6. Well, the bags of ice and the oranges are being distributed among the victorious Heriot's players, and a pat on the back for Jack Mann, who is headed over down below us to collect his Player of the Match medal. And Bruce, it is a richly deserved award. Yeah, there were a number of players that we mentioned at the time that came into the discussion, but I think head and shoulders above the others was Jack Mann. And I'm interested to know, you'll have all the stats written down. Height and weight, I'm guessing, is all the physical attributes as well to be perhaps make it to the next level. Yeah, I think he's 6'3", 6'4", certainly over 105, 110 kilos, you would think. I don't have his precise
dimensions, but he is a big old unit and he moves with such acceleration as well. This was his most eye-catching of many carries, and Logan Trotter doing well to stop him in the end, just about.
Yeah, that was great work by Logan Trotter, but as we said at the time, you can see the determination in his face, but he's got pace. You know, it's all very well saying, well, he's big and strong, but when you've got pace like that as well, and we saw a bit of footwork from him in one of the phases of play when he got the ball out in the wide channel, he can pop up out there as well, like the modern day number 8s often do.
He's got a great physique as well. When you look at as you mentioned, the muscularity of the top players nowadays, Jack Mann has a body that looks well suited to the rigours and the demands of the pro game.
And we get carried away by that because there aren't that many big old units in Scottish rugby, and so as soon as you see that, you think, well, you know, let's do something with him and see if we can mould him into something special. But and I think we sometimes get that a little bit wrong, to be perfectly honest. But in his case, he's got the physical attributes that we mentioned, but he's got plenty of rugby about him as well. I mean, I think he'll always be a very direct number 8. His handling is decent, and you know, his work in defence was great this afternoon. He's good at the breakdown, but I always figure he should play with your strengths. Bring up your weaknesses, but you always want to play with your strengths, and I think it was very clear what his strengths were today. With ball in hand, he's a very difficult guy to stop.
Yeah, he has played a bit at 6 as well, has Jack Mann. He's an accomplished player in either position, but I think 8 would be his preferred option, and certainly where he's been very impressive in the opening 2 rounds of the FOSROC Super 6. This is how things look after round 2 then, and that first win for Heriot's Rugby, moving them on to 5 points as they nestle in 4th place behind the Ayrshire Bulls on points difference. They were defeated, in fact, earlier today by Boroughmuir Bears, who are 2 from 2. The Watsonians, the only team with maximum points, 10 out of 10 in the opening 2 rounds, with back-to-back victories. They will be a tough nut to crack this season, and already it is shaping up to be a very, very competitive top 4 at the very least. When you look at the form of Boroughmuir Bears, 2 from 2. Ayrshire Bulls, the defending champions, tucked in there. They've only played 1 game at home. But the Southern Knights and Stirling County still to register their first points of the season. Jack Mann gets his awards, presented by Captain Rory Leishman, and it is a hard-earned Player of the Match medal for the Heriot's number 8. So compelling, so powerful, so quick as well over the ground. 2 tries today, and a very well-earned recognition for the Heriot's back row. And plenty more action to come across the various broadcast channels as the Super 6 heats up and round 3 begins back here at Bridgehaugh in 6 days' time. It's a 7:45 kickoff as Stirling Wolves look to register that first win of the season against Southern Knights, already looking like a basement battle between those 2. The Ayrshire Bulls will be eager to get back on track after losing, perhaps unexpectedly, earlier on today. They host the Boroughmuir Bears, who are unbeaten, and a brilliant match to finish us off. We'll be back with you for 4:30 kickoff in that one. Heriot's against Watsonians, a good old Edinburgh grudge match, with Watsonians looking to preserve their 10 from 10, 2 wins from 2 record at the home of their old foes at Goldenacre. Plenty more rugby to come next weekend. Well, that just about brings us to a close here at Bridgehaugh. We've had plenty of fun in the sun. We've had 8 tries on show and a wonderful exhibition of FOSROC Super 6 action. It's Heriot's, though, who prevail by 38 points to 17. They have their first victory of the new campaign, and that will be a morale-boosting bus journey back to Edinburgh for Finn Gillis, Stuart Edwards and his team. From Bruce Millar and myself, from everyone on board at our production at QTV, from all of us at Bridgehaugh, thank you for your company today. We hope you've enjoyed the coverage, and we'll see you again very soon indeed. Bye for now.